Buenos dias, Boquete. Buenos dias, Chiriquí. Good morning, Boquete. Good morning, Chiriquí. You are listening to Talking with Your Doctor with Dr. Shannon Tour here live on Radio Chiriquí 103.3. I'd like to thank my engineer today, Suleika, for making the show possible. Also down in David, we have Veronica that's lending us her signal from David, and Roger Guerra, who is the station manager up here in Boquete. Today on the show, we have with us Boquete Health and Hospice, and they're going to be talking about the upcoming blood drive. And I think it is June 11th. Okay, June 11th, which is very close, 2 weeks away. We have with us Licenciada Zaida Zapata. She is the director of the blood bank down in Hospital Regional. We also have Charlene, and she is a retired nurse and part of the Boquete Health and Hospice blood drive team. We also have Mary Nieves, who is a retired nurse also, and also part of the blood drive team for Boquete Health and Hospice. And of course, we have our VP for Boquete Health and Hospice, Lori. Welcome to all of you. Bienvenidos. Okay, so who are we starting with today? Who's going to talk first?
We have these questions to direct
Okay.
to Zaida.
Okay, they're all to Zaida.
Yeah.
Okay. La pregunta es, ¿por qué estamos haciendo la recolección de sangre?
Ok, estamos recogiendo sangre en la ciudad de Boquete porque a diario en los hospitales de nuestra región se necesita la sangre para atender diferentes patologías.
Okay, so we are doing the blood drive here in Boquete because the hospitals in this region, which is Chiriquí, require blood for certain procedures or illnesses.
I'd like to know how many pints of blood Cherokee needs every day.
¿Cuántas pintas de sangre requiere Chiriquí todos los días? ¿Cuántos utilizamos todos los
O
días?
sea, eso va a depender, ¿verdad?, de la necesidad y de las exigencias.
Ajá.
Hemos hecho estadísticas que estamos perfectamente bien con unos 30 donantes diarios, 30 donantes
Ajá.
efectivos, porque se pueden acercar, por ejemplo, 40, 45, pero pues algunos son rechazados. Con 30 donantes efectivos estamos bien para dar respuesta a las necesidades.
Okay, so it depends on the requirements each day. Each day they have about 40 to 45 people coming to donate blood at the hospital. About 30 of them are accepted as donors because of various issues. So that covers the needs for each day as long as they have about 30 donors.
Okay, and then tell us, there is also a donation center in David besides going to the hospital.
Hay otro centro de donación donde pueden ir a donar que no es el hospital regional.
Luego de la pandemia hemos sacado los bancos de sangre de los hospitales y ahorita solo tenemos un solo centro de donación que queda frente al Parque de Cervantes, justo al lado del Hotel Iris. Es el único centro de donación que hay. Atendemos de lunes a viernes de 7 de la mañana a 1 de la tarde, sábados, domingos y feriados de 7 de la mañana a 6 de la tarde.
Okay, so there's only one blood place to donate blood right now. They took it out of the hospitals during the pandemic so that people could go donate. It's located in front of Parque Cervantes in David, next to Hotel Iris. El horario de lunes a viernes, lunes a sábado.
De 7 de la mañana a 1 de la tarde.
From 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on work days.
Lunes y sábado, domingo y días feriados de 7 de la mañana a 6 de la tarde.
And
Para aprovechar pues que la gente está libre y pueda asistir.
Se extiende el horario. So on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, thank you. The donation times run from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. to accommodate those people that are not working those days so they can go and donate blood.
So I'd like to say that we are so grateful that Zaida and her staff of doctors and technicians have agreed to come up and do blood drives for us. We started, the first one was in June of 2019, and in 2 weeks we'll have our 7th blood drive. And
Great.
it's so convenient, so efficient for people to come. They don't have to drive to David. They just go to the Animales Event Center, also known as Ruby McKenzie Clinic in Alto Boquete, and they come in. It takes maybe a total of 30 minutes, and it's just a wonderful process, and I'll have a little more surprise to tell you about what's going to happen. But I'd like, we've got some fun things planned for the blood drive coming up. But before they had agreed to do this blood drive, we had a process. I'd like Char to talk about how it used to be when we got a request for blood.
It was not fun. I used to go to the Tuesday markets on the days that they had speakers there and beg people to sign up for blood donation. Hospice, we maintained a list of people who volunteered to give blood, A positive, B positive, AB negative, whatever. And when someone needed blood, either we found out through Facebook or they would call hospice, then another volunteer and I would go through that list and call everybody who was whatever the blood type needed, say A positive. And then we would call again because usually we can only find one or two people. Then the next morning they would go to David early. They would have to give a blood for the hospital, whichever hospital it was at, to type and cross. Sometimes they would meet the needs, sometimes they wouldn't. If they met the needs of that patient and their blood was a match, then they would come back anywhere from 3 to 6 hours later to donate blood. So it was an all-day process. So mostly we did have young Panamanians who volunteered, but most of the time they couldn't get off from work all day. You know, it's an all-day process. It was an all-day process then. So the only volunteers we had were us old retirees who they didn't want anybody over 65.
Which made the things a little bit more complicated.
Made it more complicated, yes.
Yeah.
So even though we had a lot of volunteers, many of them were over 65. And for a little while, I could call the doctor and say, you know, the only volunteers I can find are, you know, 60, 66, 68, whatever. And the doctor would call the lab, and the lab would go, okay, we'll take them, you know. And then after a while, the labs got more strict because the Panamanian rules were no donors over the age of 65.
Right.
So, you know, now with this, Lori and some other people came up with this idea, and it just is, it's so much better.
And we try to reach everyone. We try to reach everyone.
Yes.
And speaking of reaching everyone, we are right now live also on Radio Chiriquí Boquete on YouTube. So you can tune in if you're listening in your car and you get home, you can tune in on Radio Chiriquí Boquete and watch the show live.
So the blood that we collect at the blood drives gets used at the hospital right away. But what the blood bank gives us is credit for the number of pints we collect. So later, anyone who has donated blood can call us, contact us, and ask for blood for their family, you know,
Right.
relatives,
Right.
for themselves. So it's like we have a credit.
Right.
And
those credits go into the patient's files in the hospital so that when we request blood in the hospital, we send proof that there was a donation made in the name of that person. Los famosos tiquetes para los pacientes que requieren sangre en el hospital regional cuando requieren sangre para comprobar que tienen un donante, tienen que entregar su tiquete.
Sí.
I'd like to go over quickly what's the criteria to be able to donate blood. And I had someone write in and ask, why is it that you can't donate blood if you're 65 and over?
¿Por qué no se puede donar sangre si tiene edad mayor de 65 años?
La idea de que alguien done sangre es que salve una vida, pero el banco de sangre también protege la vida del que da. Entonces, luego de los 65 años, ya está demostrado que existen algunas patologías que comienzan a menoscabar la salud del donante y pues como quien dice es la edad de retiro, la edad de jubilación. No es recomendable, sobre todo por cuidar entonces ahora la salud del donante.
The reason that they are only accepting under 65 is because after age 65, usually that's when different pathologies appear, health issues that can actually put at risk the donor's health. So that's why they want to protect all their donors. It's not just, they want the blood, but to protect the health of the people coming in, they will only, if you don't meet the requirements, you cannot donate the blood. Try to translate to English now.
Yeah.
That's why it's coming out weird.
Hay excepciones
Okay.
a la regla.
Ajá.
Si queda demostrado que el donante, a pesar de tener 65 años,
Ajá.
goza de muy buena salud,
Ajá.
y por ejemplo, el tipaje de sangre de él, un tipo raro que se necesita con algo de urgencia, puede donar, pero tiene que pasar por el visto bueno del médico.
The medical. Okay. So in the case of certain blood types that are extremely rare to find in the general population, they do sometimes make exceptions for over 65 years old, as long as you're in good health, have no other conditions going on, and there is a need for that blood type specifically. They will make exceptions, but the patient has to pass through a doctor's approval to be able to donate in that case.
Okay, so let's talk about the process. Okay, you sign up to be a blood donor. You contact us at our WhatsApp number, 6590-2000, or on our website, boquetehealth.org, or our general number, 6781-9250. And then we set you up with an appointment. Then, let's talk about you come in, we already have your information registered. So what's the first thing that happens with the technicians? And what are they testing for?
Durante el proceso de extraer sangre, antes de extraer la sangre, toman una muestra. ¿Para qué se muestra?
Ok, esa muestra es para realizar una biometría hemática completa.
Ajá.
Ahí vamos a observar principalmente el nivel de hemoglobina de la persona. Hay que recordar que los niveles de hemoglobina para poder donar tienen que ser arriba de 13 gramos por decilitro. Si están por debajo, no puede donar, hay que esperar que la médula ósea recupere un poco más la hemoglobina.
Uh-huh. Okay, the reason that they take, before you can actually donate the blood, they do a blood test. And they're taking a complete blood count of your red and white cell lines. And basically what they're looking at is the total hemoglobin count. It must be over 13 to be able to donate. If it's not over 13, then you have to wait for the body to produce enough of the hemoglobin so that you can donate.
Otra cosa que vemos es los glóbulos blancos.
Ajá.
Dependiendo pues del conteo de glóbulos blancos, ya sea muy por arriba
Ajá.
o muy por debajo, también es indicativo de una infección o de una mala producción de hemocomponentes.
Okay, so they're also looking at the white blood cell line. Okay, the white blood cell line will show if there's an infection. So if the white blood cells are way above the normal limit or way below the normal limits, then that is also not permitted to donate blood, because it either indicates an infection or that the patient isn't healthy enough to donate blood. They don't have enough of the components to be able to donate the blood.
Okay, so if they pass that, then what's the next step?
Si no hay problema con sus hemogramas y todo está bien, ¿cuál es el próximo paso?
El próximo paso es ir con el examen donde el médico, el cual va a hacer primero un análisis de ese examen y le va a comenzar a hacer una serie de preguntas.
Okay.
Un cuestionario extenso de más o menos 35 a 40 preguntas, en donde el médico pues puede irse orientando sobre la conducta, la salud física y mental del donante.
Okay.
Si en el cuestionario hubiese alguna pregunta que respondiera que sí, por ejemplo, usted ha tenido una operación reciente y respondes que sí, pues ya estás descartado.
Okay.
Por ponerte un ejemplo, pero pues son muchas preguntas.
Okay, after you get passed through, your blood looks okay, you have a high enough hemoglobin and your white cell count is normal, then you go with the doctor, and the doctor has a questionnaire of about 35 questions that they ask each donor. And it's basically asking about overall health and also informing about the process of drawing the blood. There are certain questions such as, have you had a recent surgery? And if you answer yes, then automatically you are not able to donate blood, because that is one of the things that they look for. If you've had a recent surgery, you're obviously recuperating, and it could be dangerous for you to donate blood.
Okay, I want to point out they bring 2 doctors. I think one is bilingual, the other one, we have translators to help anyone through
Yo
the
sé que
process.
uno de los médicos sí habla inglés.
Sí.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Sí.
so that is not an issue if anyone needs help with the questionnaire.
Right. We have Mary here. She's a good translator.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will be there.
Exactly.
Okay, what about tattoos? Can people with tattoos? ¿Personas con tatuaje?
Sí, sí, ¿cómo no? Pueden donar.
Pero-
Ese es un mito.
Ajá.
Es un mito. Las personas con tatuaje pueden donar.
Eh.
Lo único que se les pide es que el tatuaje tenga un mes previo
De
a la
curación.
donación de haberse hecho. O sea, si
Ajá.
el tatuaje está recién hecho, no, pero si ya es de vieja data,
Uh-huh.
ya puede donar.
Okay, so contrary to popular beliefs, you can donate blood even if you've got a tattoo. But it has to be at least a month old. If you've gotten it less than a month ago, then you cannot donate blood.
Well, that's good to know because I've been getting that question. On the questionnaire, it says 1 year. So
Dice
need
que
to update that questionnaire.
en la entrevista dice que es un año, que tiene que esperar un año, pero es un mes.
Un mes. Lo que pasa es que ya ha sido modificado
Ajá.
por la asepsia que se usa ahora al
Ok.
hacer los tatuajes.
Okay.
Antes, los tatuajes, pues todos sabíamos que no estábamos seguros si las agujas eran
Correcto.
reutilizables
Ajá.
y todo lo demás. Ahora, pues los lugares que se dedican a hacer tatuajes
Ajá.
hacen con buenos
Más
métodos de asepsia.
uh-huh. Well, now that the techniques for protecting the people that get tattoos are cleaner, they use, better hygiene to do the tattoos. The guidelines have changed from 1 year to 1 month. ¿Y las personas que han viajado fuera del país?
Sí, ahí sí pedimos 6 meses de no haber salido fuera del país.
Ajá.
Sobre todo porque hay enfermedades endémicas
Ajá.
propios de cada sitio y no son tamizadas en Panamá.
Y entonces
En
no va a
Panamá,
encontrarlo en
sí,
una
en
prueba de
Panamá
sangre.
solo tamizamos pues por HIV,
Ujú.
hepatitis B, hepatitis
Ajá.
de core,
Ajá.
sífilis, chagas,
Ajá.
HTLV. Entonces, sífilis, hay enfermedades propias de cada sitio.
Correcto.
Entonces, pues tienen que pasar, por así decirlo,
Ajá.
por un periodo de cuarentena,
Sí.
certificar que no han sido enfermos por aquella
Ya sabemos todo de cuarentena. Ya.
y entonces pues lastimosamente son 6 meses.
Okay.
Porque
For those that have traveled outside of the country within the last 6 months, they are not eligible to donate, was my question to her. She says it's because here we do certain tests on the blood to look for certain illnesses, diseases, specifically for the ones that we find here in Panama, besides the general ones like HIV, hepatitis, and that kind of thing. You can contract something in another country that they don't test for here, which is why they put you through a 6-month quarantine, so to speak, before you can donate. And that's why I said we know everything about quarantine around here now.
Yes. Okay, and for COVID now, those rules changed as far as the time limit of.
Y el COVID, cuando si se infectó, por ejemplo, hace 2 semanas, ¿se puede donar sangre?
no, el COVID también es un tema de revisión diaria.
Okay.
Entonces, al inicio de la enfermedad, nosotros diferíamos los donantes que habían padecido COVID por 3 meses.
Okay.
Ese tiempo ha ido disminuyendo y ahora los aceptamos con 1 mes.
Okay.
Con 1 mes luego de haber pasado la enfermedad.
Sin
puede donar, sí.
sintomatología, eso. Okay. So,
Pero igual el médico debe hacer la evaluación de que tan bien quedó su salud.
sí, porque también sufren a veces de anemias y otros problemas. Long COVID, como dicen, que prolonga.
Concomitantes.
So, if you've had COVID and it hasn't been a month since you've been cleared as well, then you cannot donate blood. They've been revising it over the years since COVID started, and it used to be 3 months that you had to wait. Now they say a month, but that's also depending on your interview with the doctor. If the doctor decides you're still not healthy enough, even though it's been a month, then you have to wait.
Okay, and then I believe also you have to weigh 110 pounds.
Peso mínimo.
Ajá. El donante debe pesar 120 libras
Ok.
como peso mínimo. Y esto es porque queda demostrado que con un peso menor el donante sufre casi siempre de desmayos. Entonces, por eso se le pide como peso mínimo 120 libras.
Okay, the minimum weight that you have to meet to be able to donate is 120 pounds. And this is because they found that when they take blood from people that do not weigh at least 120 pounds, they tend to pass out.
Oh.
They tend to have a really bad experience donating blood. So you have to be at least 120 pounds. No hay peso máximo.
Bueno, en Panamá tendemos a ser gorditos, entonces, pero sí, a veces cuando es una
Depende de la
obesidad
salud.
mórbida,
Ajá.
el médico entonces lo difiere, pero no tanto por el peso,
Ajá.
sino por las enfermedades que
Que-
esa obesidad
Ajá.
conlleva. Ujú.
Okay, so there is no maximum weight specified, but if the doctor finds that there's other illnesses associated with the obesity, then they can also say,
Yeah.
can't donate.
Por ejemplo, una obesidad casi siempre va acompañada de presiones arteriales
Elevadas, sí. Such as high blood pressure. Diabéticos pueden donar.
No.
Okay, if you're diabetic, you're also excluded from being able to donate. Pero hipertensivos controlados,
sí.
sí pueden. Okay,
Well,
so
Yeah, some people have asked, what if they have high blood pressure, but they're taking medicine for it?
y si
and it's
están tomando
okay at the-
medicamentos para su presión arterial, se pueden donar.
Bueno, lo que pasa es que por lo general el hipertenso toma medicamentos para varias cosas.
Ajá.
Entonces allí sí se hace un análisis de los medicamentos que toma
Ajá.
y entonces el doctor pues decide si sí o si no.
Okay.
Pero casi siempre un hipertenso, usted le pregunta cuántas pastillas toma, le va a decir que de 3 a 4.
Uh-huh. It depends. It's doctor's judgment, basically, because usually it's not just one tablet that the person is taking to control their blood pressure. They also have other things going on. So they're probably taking 3, 4, 5 tablets of something. So then it's the doctor's judgment of whether or not the person can donate. Y si la presión está elevada en ese momento,
No puede.
tampoco.
No, porque es signo de que no te estás controlando, no estás controlando. Ajá.
So
o no
if-
lo sabes, lo estás descubriendo.
Si no sabe si está estresado o algo, nervioso, y
sí.
se le sube, y tampoco es buena, ideal
Ideal.
para la extracción de
Exacto.
sangre. So,
Igual que los hipotensos.
sí, claro. So anybody that is either hypotensive or hypertensive in the moment that they take their blood pressure before donating, they are also excluded. Hypotensive, for obvious reasons, their blood pressure is already low. You take out more blood, it's going to go lower, and they're going to pass out. High blood pressure is because they're not controlled. If they're coming in and their blood pressure is high at the moment, they're either not controlled or we're finding for the first time that they are hypertensive and they need to be evaluated by a doctor.
So we've talked a lot about the criteria where you can't donate. However, it seems like in our last blood drives, there were very few that got turned down.
Rechazaron muy pocos donantes la última vez que hicieron la recolección de
No,
sangre.
mira, se ha observado que en las colectas de donantes voluntarios el porcentaje de rechazos es mínima.
Okay.
Es mínima. Primero, pues porque el que asiste tiene la seguridad de que está sano y pues tiene el ánimo. Y es mínimo, sobre todo porque las chicas también, cuando citan a los donantes, hacen allí una preselección.
Ok.
Ellas hacen allí la encuesta y allí vas haciendo
Yeah. Rechazando
un
los
depuraje,
que...
vas
Ajá.
depurándolos.
Ajá.
Ya son como elegidos, preelegidos. Pre.
The
Yeah.
chosen.
Right.
Sí, eso es muy bueno, porque entonces sabes que el que asiste tiene un gran porcentaje de ser aceptado, de probabilidad de ser aceptado.
So there is she's explaining that there is a pre-selection process. You get your appointment time, you go in, and you get interviewed as a pre-interview before you do anything else.
Ellos también
Right.
han podido hacer alguna consulta a ellas.
Ajá.
Y entonces ahí. Es
Ok.
diferente cuando es una campaña de donación
Ajá.
abierta. Estas son precitadas.
Uh-huh.
So, yes, when we,
Es muy bueno.
Sí.
when someone says they want to donate, they already know they have to be 65 or less, healthy, and weigh a certain amount. They fill out a blood donor form, and so we give all that information ahead to Zaida and the blood bank. So, yeah, you're right. So that's why there aren't a lot of rejections.
Right, there aren't a lot of rejections due to being pre-selected,
Right.
and then sometimes they catch something when they go through the process.
Yeah.
But there's very few that they find like that because you're not going to find a whole lot of people that aren't healthy, that don't feel good, that are trying to donate their
Right.
blood.
Right. Okay, so once they, to continue on with the process, the doctor says, fine and dandy. Next step is
Es-
taking the blood, and how long does that take?
Okay, el siguiente paso después de pasar por el médico es la extracción de sangre. Más o menos, ¿cuánto tiempo demora eso?
Bueno, la extracción de sangre debe demorar con una buena punción lo más 15 minutos.
Okay.
Lo más. Está entre 10 minutos y 15 minutos. Pasa luego a manos nuestras.
Ajá.
Un personal técnico especializado, cariñoso, amable, alegre por estarlos recibiendo. Son sentados en las sillas, un poco más cómodos, reclinados, y se hace la extracción. 15 minutos nomás.
Okay. So the whole thing, after you get through the interview process and the pre-test for the blood, takes about 10 to 15 minutes. You're taken back by a professional that is going to take your blood. Very happy to receive all the donors. You're treated really well. You're relaxed. You sit down. They do the venipunction, which, no, that's Spanish, English. That's Spanglish. They do the...
La extracción.
Venipuncture? Okay, thank you. I forgot I'm surrounded by nurses. They do the venipuncture, and then after that's done, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for them to collect the blood.
Okay.
And it's all done very sterile and
Okay, and so when they're done collecting the blood, we have nurses around. They come and sit down. Right now, we have everyone sit down outside at a table. We give them a treat, water, a special something sweet, something salty, and just sit. So we observe them. The nurses observe them to, make sure that they're okay. We do have a
nobody passes out.
no. We do have a chaise lounge.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
in case someone needs to,
Trendelenburg.
lay down for a little. Yes. So, and we've got little gifts that we give them too. So, I just wanted to. Then
Tengo
ask-
otra pregunta para la
Yeah.
licenciada. ¿Cómo deben llegar? ¿Deben desayunar? ¿Deben hidratarse bien? ¿O deben ir en ayunas?
No, deben desayunar. Para donar la ayuna no es recomendable. Cuando se le pide ayunas para cuando se van a hacer exámenes de laboratorio,
Ajá.
cosa, creatinina, esos
Ajá.
exámenes. Pero para donar tiene que ir desayunado.
Y dormir.
Desayune normal, duerma bien,
Ajá.
hidrátese y cargue, si es posible, una botella de agua o de alguna bebida de su preferencia.
Ajá,
Recuerden
ok.
que lo que va a pasar es que vamos a sacarle un volumen de su cuerpo que usted debe reponer.
Ajá.
Y el líquido es lo mejor.
Exactly. So my question was, how should you prepare to come to do the donation? Get a good night's sleep. Make sure you're well hydrated. And have breakfast. Don't come without eating because for this you don't need to fast. If you fast, then you're not getting enough energy, nutrients to be able to pass through the actual blood extraction without feeling ill.
That's a-
¿Deben tomar sus medicamentos antes de venir si es que tomen medicamentos?
Bueno, casi siempre el donante no toma medicamentos.
Ajá.
Pero si hay alguna medicación que está tomando, Puede hacerlo. Por ejemplo, medicaciones permitidas pudieran ser un ansiolítico.
Okay.
Pueden tomárselo, porque
Sí.
si no se me va a descompensar, ¿verdad?
Ajá.
Entonces, hay algunos medicamentos que están...
Okay. Okay. Uh-huh.
Sí, por ejemplo, ¿qué le digo? Le duele la cabeza, puede tomar un analgésico.
Okay. Okay.
Medicamentos así, sencillos.
Okay, my question was, can you take any medications before going? Yes, if you're going to get very nervous, you can take an anti-anxiety drug, or if you take anti-anxiety drugs anyways for your nerves, then you're permitted to take that. If you have some kind of a pain, like a headache or something, you can take an analgesic such as Tylenol. But generally, those that are donating don't take medications because they should be healthy enough to donate. The other thing she said, besides being well hydrated and eating before you come, carry a bottle of water so that you can stay hydrated.
And-
Or
yeah,
other liquid, because you're removing volume from the blood.
We give each donor a bottle of water, so
Okay.
we'll supply that plus some treats to eat afterwards. Okay, I'd like to then step up. Now they have this valuable blood from these donors.
Uh-huh.
What do they do with it? What happens? What kind of test do they run? How do they separate it? Because we understand that 1 pint can save 3 lives. I'd like to hear more about that.
Ok, dice que una pita de sangre se puede salvar 3 vidas. ¿Por cuáles procesos pasan la sangre? Sabemos que hacen pruebas como para descartar VIH, y sífilis y otras enfermedades. Pero después de eso, ¿qué hacen? ¿Separan la sangre?
Ajá.
¿Cómo lo hacen?
Muchas personas piensan que donaron y ya están aceptados. No, el proceso sigue y es el proceso más serio,
Ajá.
de más cuidado, ¿no? Ya en un laboratorio. Se le hace entonces 7 marcadores que por ley en Panamá se exigen. En otros países exigirán más, pero depende de las enfermedades endémicas de cada sitio. Son 7 marcadores: HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis B core, hepatitis C, HTLV, SIDAS y Chagas. Sífilis y Chagas, perdón.
Ajá.
Luego que pasan esos 7 marcadores, la sangre ya está disponible para ser usada. Ya es
Ok.
sangre segura. Mientras tanto, pues la sangre está apartada todavía pues en tamizaje.
Ajá.
La sangre se separa, ¿no? Usando diferentes métodos. Nosotros usamos la centrifugación
Ajá.
en glóbulos rojos, plasma y plaquetas. Hay un cuarto hemocomponente que preparamos en nuestro banco, que es crioprecipitado.
Ajá.
Así que decimos por esto que una unidad puede llegar a 3 personas diferentes.
Ok.
Y nos podríamos atrever a decir que a 4.
Qué bien. Okay, so after it has to go, the blood, you're not automatically accepted once you donate the blood. You donate your pint of blood, that pint of blood goes down to the laboratory. In the laboratory, they do 7 different markers, checking for different sexually transmitted diseases, hepatitis, HIV, syphilis, Chagas, that are particular to our region. And then that blood is ready for use. Once they rule out any of the illnesses, that blood is ready to be used. But we say that they can save 3, possibly 4 people's lives because it can be divided by centrifugation. Is that how you say it?
¿Sí?
Centrifuge. And it can be divided into 4 different components: the platelets, the whole blood, the se me olvidó el otro.
Glóbulos rojos, plasma,
Ajá.
plaquetas
Uh-huh.
y crioprecipitados.
Okay. So cryoprecipitants, red blood cells, platelets. That's why you can plasma. That's why you can save 3 to 4 different people with the same unit of blood that you've donated, or just the whole blood.
Sí, nada más que recordemos que cada enfermedad tiene destinado un hemocomponente como terapia.
Ajá.
Entonces, por eso es que no quiere decir que yo dono una sangre, llega a una sola persona, no.
Ajá.
Llega a 3 personas diferentes, quizás 4.
Right, because as she was explaining, the blood doesn't get used just for one thing. Okay, it can be used for different illnesses. So sometimes you require just the platelets or just the red blood cells. It can treat numerous types of illnesses, and not just blood loss. That's why it can be divided up and save more than one life.
And can some of these components be preserved, like frozen, or do they have to be used right away?
Los componentes de la sangre, ¿tiene que utilizarlos de inmediato o se puede congelarlos, guardarlos?
Mira cómo es la sangre, que maravillosa. Cada hemocomponente tiene una temperatura y un tiempo diferente para almacenar. Los glóbulos rojos se pueden almacenar 35 días.
Okay.
Hay bolsas que traen otro anticoagulante que nos permiten almacenarlo por 42. Glóbulos rojos, 35
A 42
días en temperatura de 2 a 4 grados centígrados. Es de refrigeración.
Uh-huh. So whole blood, red blood cells can be stored for up to 42 days, 35 to 42 days at a certain temperature, not frozen, but refrigerated. So, I mean, blood is amazing. Other components get stored at different temperatures as well. Las plaquetas.
Las plaquetas son valiosísimas en cualquier hospital, porque las plaquetas solo duran 5 días. 5 días, y las plaquetas se colocan en dosis de 6 para un adulto. O sea que cada vez que un adulto requiere terapia de plaquetas, son 6 bolsitas que hay que mandar por terapia,
tratamiento,
por diario. Hay un procedimiento que no realizamos en las colectas de donación, que son las aféresis de plaquetas. Nos permiten cosechar de un donante más cantidad de plaquetas que de la manera manual.
Pero no lo hacen.
No lo hacemos porque hay que mover máquinas y el tiempo no nos permite. Un donante de plaquetas demora 1 hora y media en una máquina.
Okay.
Entonces,
so platelets can be stored for up to 5 days, but only 5 days, which is what makes them very valuable, because those that need you can't save them for very long. So if you don't use them, you lose them. And one patient per treatment requires 6 of the little platelet units for each treatment, for each day of treatment.
Wow.
So there is another process where you can separate the platelets from somebody's blood. You can hook them up to a special machine and remove the platelets, but that takes at least an hour. Not all the platelets, obviously, otherwise.
Yeah.
But taking some of the platelets so that you can have just the platelets. But it takes a special machine, and it takes at least an hour, so it's a complicated process. And then still, 5 days you can store it.
Si usamos las matemáticas y decimos que llegan 30 donantes al banco de sangre, solo me alcanzarían para 3 o 4 pacientes de plaquetas.
Okay.
Por eso es que
Son muy valiosos. So for 30 donations of 1 pint of blood, okay, you can, ¿cuántas?
si llegan 30 donantes, recuerda que son 6 plaquetas para un adulto.
Correcto.
Entonces divide 30 entre
Entonces
6.
son 5 tratamientos,
4 diría yo. 5, sí, 5. 5 o 4.
4 o 5. Okay, so 30 donations only equals about 4 treatments with platelets.
Pushing it 5.
Pushing it at 5.
Entonces, por eso es que las plaquetas son las más escasas y las más valiosas. De ahí viene el plasma. El plasma sí es un hemocomponente que abunda porque su duración es 1 año.
Wow.
Se me olvidó decir que las plaquetas se guardan a temperatura ambiente y en rotación, en movimiento, para que no se agreguen, porque la función de la plaqueta es agregarse.
Okay, so the platelets, they don't require refrigeration or freezing. They stay at room temperature, but in constant movement. Because the platelets stick together. That's their job. Okay? So they don't want them sticking together in the bag. So it has to be in constant rotation.
Constante movimiento. Y luego el plasma, que sí es un componente que siempre tenemos, dura 1 año en temperaturas de menos 40 grados centígrados. Esto es congelación.
Sí. Okay, so the plasma is the most abundant of the components of the blood, okay? The plasma can last up to 1 year in storage at minus 40 degrees centigrade, which is very, very, very frozen.
A veces nos preguntamos cómo tenemos todo eso adentro, cómo, y sin, o sea, todo con la misma condición. Pero es que ya una vez que está fuera del cuerpo, hay que tenerles las condiciones para que esos componentes
Preservarlos,
sean viables y funcionales.
Uh-huh. Yeah, your blood in your body is already maintained. It's circulating. It's constantly replacing itself, taking out the dead cells, getting rid of them. When it goes into storage, when you take it out and goes into storage, you have to separate it, and it has to be stored in a certain way so it doesn't degrade. And so, you know, you have to separate them. Who figured it out that, you know, platelets had to stay at room temperature? Who knows? But it's very interesting that once it comes out of the body, you have to figure out a way to preserve it so it's usable later on, such as the red blood cells. They have to be stored with heparin so it doesn't coagulate. Otherwise, it can't be used. So different temperatures, different ways of storage. Very interesting, actually. Muy interesante cómo tienen que preservar cada componente de sangre.
Y luego, bueno, durante la vida media de esos hemocomponentes, un control de calidad estricto.
Entonces hacen otras pruebas para ver si,
Sí,
si
son
siempre es
funcionales,
viable.
si son funcionales y viables.
So, you know,
Excuse me, I have a question. I wanna ask it. People that are vaccinated, are they able to donate blood?
vaccinated with what?
The COVID.
The COVID vaccine?
Yeah.
Yes.
La gente que recibieron su vacuna contra el COVID pueden donar.
Sí, 24 horas.
24 horas
24
después de...
horas. Ujú.
Ok. 24
Resulta que
Ajá.
al principio el tiempo de deferimiento por vacuna era más largo.
Ajá.
Pero que resulta que en Panamá todos estamos vacunados ya.
Ajá.
Entonces 24 horas y ya.
Ok.
Y las 24 horas es solo para que el donante, si llega a ser alguna
Fiebre.
reacción
Ajá.
adversa a la vacuna, esté tranquilo pues a la hora de donación.
Okay. So 24, the question was, well, you heard the question in
Yeah.
English. How long till you can donate after getting vaccinated for COVID? 24 hours. 24 hours. And that is just to make sure that you didn't have any adverse effects from the vaccine.
Okay. So I have a question. When we get a request for blood needed for a patient, how do I see 1 pint's requested, 2 pint, whatever. How do they know what part of this blood is needed? Is it the whole? Is it the plasma? Is it the, now that we've talked about how it gets split up, how
Because you always see it as asking for
a pint.
a pint. Okay. Cuando piden una unidad de sangre, no necesariamente son las glóbulos rojos o plaquetas o... ¿Cómo saben qué es la parte que requieren?
Ok, eso ya queda a manos del médico tratante. El médico tratante sabe la patología de su paciente y las diferentes patologías que necesiten sangre va a tener su indicación.
Ajá.
Por ejemplo, glóbulos rojos para aquellas personas anémicas
Ajá.
con sangrado digestivo. Por ejemplo, las plaquetas para las personas que están en quimioterapia, los
Ajá.
leucémicos, que su médula ósea no la produce.
Ajá.
Y el plasma, por ejemplo, para los gran quemados, para las personas que no
Ajá.
tienen factor de coagulación, para aquellas personas que han perdido mucha sangre,
Ajá.
también sirve para reponer
Necesitan volumen. Ajá.
¿Qué hemocomponente va para cada paciente? Es una
Ajá.
decisión plenamente médica.
Okay. So the different components are used for different illnesses, what have you. For example, red blood cells for anemic people. Platelets are usually used for people in chemotherapy that their bone marrow is not producing the platelets. The plasma for burn victims or people that have lost a lot of blood that require it to be able to heal their bodies. That's the doctor decides which patient requires which treatment.
Okay.
Habrá patologías que terminan el doctor pidiendo las tres cosas. Por ejemplo,
Ajá.
las cirugías de corazón abierto.
Ajá.
A la final de la cirugía, el doctor va a pedir ya glóbulos rojos, plasma y plaqueta.
Uh-huh.
Pero pues no son todas las patologías las que necesitan.
Okay. So some patients are going to require all three components.
Okay.
Plasma, platelets, and red blood cells. For example, open heart surgeries and that kind of thing. The doctor, after the surgery, is going to request all three. Yeah, whole blood.
Okay, I just want to go over real quick, when we get contacted, when someone needs blood, the information that we need to pass on to Zaida and the blood bank is the name of the patient, their cedula number,
Okay.
or passport,
passport,
number, and a copy of the cedula if possible, their blood type, the number of pints requested, their age, which hospital they're in, the reason for the blood, and where they live. Why we say where they live is because we can't service everybody. We have a service area in the greater Boquete area. But we do make some exceptions because if someone who's donated blood, we give a blood donor card, and they're kind of like a member of our blood donor club. And it's designed to contact us if they need help for, their grandmother lives in Dolega.
Right.
We will help.
Right.
So, okay. I'd like to talk about real quick Zaida's experience on what education is needed for the Panamanian public on why to donate and what myths are there that we're trying to overcome.
Okay. ¿Entendió?
Es algo sobre qué debemos cambiar en educación. Sí.
¿Qué educación se debe dar al público para que ellos tienen las ganas de donar? ¿Y qué mitos existen que como que afectan las donaciones?
Okay. Lo primero que hay que cambiar en la mentalidad del panameño es que uno dona a cambio de nada. Es lo primero. Es voluntario. O sea,
Right.
Quizás Panamá, porque no ha sufrido calamidades, ni de la naturaleza,
Ajá.
ni del hombre,
Ajá.
no tenemos eso ya sembrado en nuestra cultura del donar.
Ajá.
Pero donar es eso, dar sin esperar recibir nada a cambio.
Okay.
Con la satisfacción solo de salvar vidas.
Exactly. Okay. So the mentality, the Panamanian mentality for donating blood is getting something in return. What do I get in return? This is donation. It means you're giving of yourself freely without expecting anything in return. And it's possibly this culture of thinking is probably due to the fact that we haven't had any mass casualties, school shootings, wars, huge natural disasters, and where the blood is required massively. So it's not ingrained in the population to want to donate freely. I know that sometimes I've had friends put out word that they need blood donated, and they say, okay, so how much are you going to give me for that pint of blood? Or I will sell it to you, yes.
Otra cosa es, la familia panameña debe enseñarle a los hijos valores, como cuál, amor, respeto, honestidad, pero ninguno enseña donar.
Uh-huh.
Ajá.
And also the Panamanian families should be teaching values.
El donar es un valor.
And donating blood is one of the values that should be taught: respect, love, honesty, and wanting to give back to your community.
Y pues esa debe ser también una materia de ser tratada en los colegios.
De valores.
De valores, en formación cristiana, no sé, familia, educación. Ahí se debe dar ese valor, el valor de la
Apoyando al
donación.
vecino.
Y bueno, ahorita nos estamos refiriendo a sangre, pero donar, pues es donar cualquier cosa. Lo otro es quitar de la mente del panameño el que yo puedo pagar por eso. Esto es un negocio, por así decirlo, de compra y venta.
Ajá.
Entonces, si yo no estoy dispuesto a pagar, entonces, pues ese negocio se tiene que terminar algún día.
Uh-huh. So we have to also take the mentality of, I want to buy this. Like, if I'm going to get blood, I'm going to have to buy it. So then you have the donors thinking, okay, it's not donation. I can sell this. It's demand. And to remove that wanting to sell, you have to stop paying for the donation. Donation means you're just giving freely to help somebody else. So if you stop paying for it, then people are going to stop selling or trying to sell.
Entonces, cuestión que cuando usted tiene necesidad de sangre y usted le solicitan una unidad de sangre, al primer sitio donde tiene que mirar a su familia. ¿Ya? Su familia debe estar educadita
Ajá.
en la donación.
Uh-huh. So when a family member needs blood, the family needs to be educated. They need to look among their own family first for donations and then turn to the public for donations. That's one way of teaching people that, donation is exactly that. You're looking inside yourself and you're saying, okay, can I help this person? How can I help this person? This is my own family. And then coming to the conclusion that I don't just have to help my own family, I can help my neighbor. I can help the person down the street that's sick. My best friend is sick. I can donate to them.
Or it doesn't matter who. You could go to the blood bank.
And just donate. Yes, it doesn't matter if you know the person or not. Just go to the blood bank, donate, and it sits there for whoever needs it. You don't need to know who they are.
En el caso que tu familia no está aquí,
Ajá.
que seas extranjero, por ejemplo,
Muchos
que seas,
están aquí
o
solitos.
por ejemplo que tu número familiar no sea muy extenso, entonces tu mirada hacia tus amigos. Debes tener entre tus amigos algún candidato.
Ajá.
Pero no busques personas desconocidas.
Ajá. Porque van a pedir plata.
Tradúcelo.
So the question strikes, if you cannot donate after 65, what is the
Sí,
age
también es un problema.
Ajá.
that you can then
That's what she's talking about. Yeah, she's talking about, okay, a lot of people come from other countries here. They're alone or they have very few family members here. In that case, you're going to start looking among your friends, but for donations. But the first place you shouldn't be looking is, strangers.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Oh, I know. I'm just translating hers first. Because strangers are going to ask for money. So go among your friends and stuff first, and then go to the public. Okay, now go ahead.
yeah, like you cannot donate after 65.
Uh-huh.
So what is the most the age that you can then start to donate?
18.
La edad que se puede donar, la edad mínima para donar sangre.
18 años.
Okay,
Es
18
cuando
years old.
tienes edad para consentir.
Ajá.
So I do remember Zaida talking about some other
Hay
myths
excepción también a la regla.
Ajá. Sí.
about that if you donate, you're going to gain weight, or that they're using the same needles, or you're going to get HIV. Those yeah.
Higiene, asepsia de la donación, no reutilizan agujas, no reutilizan los tubos, ni
Bueno,
las bolsas.
Ahí
ni...
entonces estaríamos tocando los mitos que Laura
Ajá.
nos decía. Uno de los mitos por los cuales las personas no se acercan a donar es porque piensan que van a ser contagiados por
Ajá,
algo.
ajá.
No tengan miedo, todo es estéril, no reusable. Se utiliza y se descarta inmediatamente en envase, también en envases
plásticos.
de punzocortante,
Ajá.
que tampoco van a hacer ningún daño cuando lleguen al vertedero.
Ajá. Okay, so the process of donating blood is completely sterile. You don't reuse any of the needles or any of the bags or any of the tubes that the blood passes through. You're not going to catch anything from donating blood. All the stuff that has been used is discarded, such as the needles. They're placed in a special container for sharps, so that even when they're discarded into wherever they discard all this stuff, nobody gets stuck with a needle. So it's a completely safe and sterile process.
Otro de los mitos es que si la persona dona engorda. Falso, deberías quedar pesando es menos, ¿no? Ajá, pero lo que pasa es que entonces la persona cree que alimentándose de más
Ajá.
puede reponer la sangre perdida. No, la médula solita hace ese trabajo.
Okay, so another myth is that you can gain weight from donating blood. And this is because people think that in order to replace the blood that you've lost after you've donated, you have to eat more. But this is false. Your body automatically is going to replace the blood lost. It comes from your bone marrow, not from the food that you eat.
So I understand that actually donating blood is very healthy for a person.
Dice que ella entiende que donar sangre es muy saludable para la persona donando.
Claro, claro que es saludable. Primero, pues, esfuerzas un poquito tu médula que te reponga eso con
Ajá.
eritrocitos nuevos, por ejemplo. Y luego la persona, al ser aceptado como donante, sabe que está por lo menos con 7 marcadores negativos.
Es sano, porque tiene que ser sano para poder donar. So it's you already know that you're going to be healthy when you're donating the blood, and you also are getting free testing for different 7 different types of illnesses. So you're ruling out that you have any of those 7 types of illnesses, because obviously if you come back positive for any of them, they're going to let you know.
Yes.
Also, you're making your body work a little bit when you donate a pint of blood, because it has to replace the red blood cells that are lost, the erythrocytes. So you're causing your bone marrow to kick into action to replace that blood that you lost.
Y otra cosa es que un donante responsable va a cuidar su salud,
Ajá.
porque sabe que de su salud depende la vida de los demás.
And also, you know that if you want to donate blood, you have to be healthy and protect your own health first before you can help preserve somebody else's health, save somebody else's life. So you're going to stay healthy. So you know you're going to be healthy in the moment as well as all year long, preparing to donate.
So
The amount of times you're going to donate.
I want to say we have an option for people who are over 65 or unhealthy that want to help, but they can't donate their blood.
Uh-huh.
We have a matching fund drive,
Okay.
which is you pledge a dollar amount for the number of pints we collect, and you can set the limit on that. So that's another way that you can help Boquete Health and Hospice be able to keep doing these kinds of programs.
Okay.
So I just want to remind you to be looking at News Boquete, our Facebook, our website. We're going to do a lot of advertising. We're posting flyers, but so that you can sign up by going to boquetehealth.org. That's easy to remember because we live in Boquete and we're a health organization and we're an organization.
And you can just
Yeah.
do a search, Google search, and it'll come up.
Right. So we welcome those. Something new that's going to happen at the blood drive, we're going to have one of our blood donors offered to play live music.
All
so,
right.
so we're going to be able to
Música en
groove
vivo.
as you're sitting there getting your blood taken out. You can groove to the music,
Hey,
and we'll have gifts for the donors too, and some my homemade coconut muffins.
One more question. If I live in David
Uh-huh.
and I need blood, can I call Boquete Hospice for blood?
You can try.
Yeah, I think we need to explain the area.
Yes.
can I ask one other question? ¿Cuántas veces al año se puede donar sangre una persona?
Una persona, por ley, puede donar cada 3 meses,
Okay.
pero no más de 4 veces al año.
Okay. So a donor can donate up to 4 times a year, but not over that.
Right.
Every 3 months, you can donate a pint of blood.
So, yeah, we have done 3 blood drives a year. We are now keeping it at 2. So we're celebrating World Blood Donor Day, June 11th, and we, welcome all your blood.
11 de junio es el Día
From
Mundial de la Donación de Sangre.
7 until 12 at the Animales Event Center in Alto Boquete.
You were gonna, no, you already got yours.
Well,
Oh, this
okay.
is gonna-
Our catchment area.
Yo
Yes,
quisiera-
what's your area?
Ajá, yo quisiera agregar algo. ¿Por
Ajá.
qué donar en boquete? O sea,
Sorry.
¿por qué donar en boquete? Y quiero separarlo según los actores de ese gran día. Para el donante, porque te ahorra un viaje hacia David,
Ajá,
que es el único lugar donde se dona.
ajá.
La atención es fuera de un hospital, que de hecho te causa atención.
Uh-huh.
Y la atención es extremadamente rápida.
So why donate in Boquete? Because you don't have to go down to David. It's not going to be in a hospital-like setting. It's a more comfortable setting. And what was the last one?
Live music.
Live music.
Y el snack.
And you're attended to very rapidly.
Yes, it's fast process.
In and out.
Sí. Para nosotros, el personal de salud,
Ajá.
es muy importante donar en boquete porque es una tarea compartida. Nos quitan de encima la promoción.
Ajá.
La promoción entonces queda en manos de hospice.
See, and also it helps them out that you guys are here doing these blood drives, because it takes the responsibility of having to cover such a large area themselves. You guys are doing the advertising right here. I think you even get the mayor involved sometimes.
Yes.
So it's a wide range, and they get to concentrate in an area, and you guys are concentrating in an area. And what areas can you call from to get a blood donation from
Our
Boquete Health
service
Hospice?
area is Greater Boquete,
Uh-huh.
Caldera, Puerto Rios. And as I mentioned, if you're a blood donor, if you have a family member that happens to live in David, we are going to help.
La tarea
Okay.
también es compartida con
Ajá.
hospitales privados como el Hospital Chiriquí
Ajá.
y el Hospital Lewis, que también nos dan ese día
Ajá.
colaboradores para que vengan a trabajar en la jornada. Así que es una actividad que une a Chiriquí.
Okay, so this event is organizing everybody from the
Yes.
private hospitals, the public hospitals, from David all the way up to Boquete. So it's bringing our community together.
And thank you, Zaida, and your team for coming to Boquete. To
Encantada de
help us.
Sí,
participar
muchas
al
gracias.
equipo tan activo.
Muchas gracias. Thank you
Thank you,
all
Dr.
for
Shannon.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you all for coming to the show today. I would like to again thank Zuleika for providing us with the technical aspect, Roger Guerra, the owner of this station, and of course, down in David Veronica. We will see you next Saturday on Talking with Your Doctor.